Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Diasporic Nigerian. If this is your first time here, this is our Nigerian Professionals in Canada series, where we talk to Nigerian professionals in Canada about all the good work that they're doing. In today's interview, we're with no other person than Tolu Akanni. Tolulope was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, before relocating to Canada 7 years ago. He holds a Bachelor's and Master's degree in engineering, and he actively pursues two distinct careers in technology consulting and in photography. Tolulope has been in the tech consulting world for the last 10 years and specializes in helping organizations implement enterprise solutions like SAP. As a photographer, he loves to travel and he uses his images to tell stories of different cities he has been to around the world. He sees color as a significant element in his narrative, and his work expresses his mastery of colors. His photography startup, Fisco, specializes in creating content for brands, photojournalism, and documenting memories for individuals. He's the author of the book A to Z Life Lessons and hosts the Toronto exhibition series Art, Jollof, and Champagne. See your resume. See your resume, Tolu.
Hey.
Please.
What do I say? I was beginning to wonder if that was me you're still talking about, but
Wow. Anyway, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure joining the show today.
For
So,
sure, for sure. So, where is the last place you traveled before COVID?
the last place I traveled before COVID was to Brazil.
Mhm.
And thankfully we went at the time we went because like within like 2 or 3 months after that, like Brazil started leading the charts in terms of like
True.
countries with the highest number of COVID cases. But yeah, we were there February, that was just the month prior to all of these lockdowns, right? And
That is true.
thankfully we went there, we returned safely. So
That's good. That's important, you know. So, where is the next place you would like to travel to now that we're getting double vaxxed and the streets are opening?
it's so tough to choose. It's so tough to choose. I feel like the places I really want to go to, I still have to be a little bit more cautious.
Uh-huh.
Because especially as these vaccines are being distributed here more than it is in developing countries, right?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like I do want to go back to Europe.
Mhm.
So I'll say Italy is definitely one place I'm excited to visit next. Though I've been before, but I want to go to different parts where I haven't been before, like Venice. So yeah, that's one place I'm looking forward to traveling to when all of this calms down.
Okay, oh, Ajala the traveler. Okay, all right, all right. So
Perfect.
let's talk about your engineering journey and how you were able to also venture into photography.
Yeah. I mean, engineering was deliberate. I'll never forget how I ended up being an engineer because I mean, like I was being the last child in my family, having two older siblings that were already in the sciences. I kind of knew I was going to go into engineering, but I never really knew which one.
Mhm.
And I remember like when I was in SS2, when I was going to write jam for the first time, because that's the thing in my house. You do jam when you're in SS2 and then you do the real one in SS3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like then it was now left for me to decide, okay, which of the engineering am I doing, right? I guess for some people you're like, okay, what am I going to school to study? But for me, it's more like, okay, which of the engineering are you doing? And I remember then that my dad used to buy Guardian specifically on Tuesday, I think on Monday, but I think Tuesday, because that's when they do all of the job postings and all of that. So it was like, well, um, you have to check the last two guardians and check what's hot in the market because
Yeah.
you should go to school for what's hot, right? And then I started scrolling. And it so happened that because I really liked physics, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, yeah, you know what? I think I'll do electrical and electronics engineering.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was how I got into that. I made the deliberate intention to pursue engineering in school. And I was an okay student in school,
Mhm.
not the brightest, but I was an okay student in school. And
Please get degrees. You're fine. It's okay.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, like I finished school, and we all go through that phase where you're looking for a job, and ideally you want a job in engineering, but at the same time you take whatever comes your way first, and it's what the time and pay, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I was lucky to get into engineering straight out of school.
Yeah. Look at you, one of the lucky ones. Look at you. Actually, I
Thank
feel
God.
a lot of engineering students get all my friends that I know that are in engineering, they got into that field. I think that's the one true field that you graduate with that degree and you can get a job there. So shout out to
Yeah.
the engineers, you know.
Well, we did try. And I mean, like, just what for Nigeria is, right? Like, engineers get the banking jobs. That's what makes it annoying, right? Like, you would think engineers only get the engineering jobs, but in Nigeria, because of that impression that if you're an engineer, you're a smart guy, they're
Mhm.
ready to pull you into anything.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, it definitely, I guess going by what was in the newspaper, eventually paid off. So
That's a smart way to do things, though. So I'm here for that. So, how did you venture into photography itself? Was that something you were already doing in Nigeria before you came here, or it started here?
no, that started in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like it's one of those things that for those of us that started off our working career in Nigeria and then we moved out here, one of the biggest things or biggest, I don't know if I should use the word cultural shock, but yeah, like let me put like corporate life cultural shock
Mhm.
is you, especially if you've worked in Lagos, right? Like you start working here and by 5:36 you're home and you're like, okay, I'm back from work at 6 o'clock. What do I do with my life?
Mhm.
So, because if you're working in Lagos, there's no way you're back from
No
work
way.
before 9 o'clock, right? So it was one of those early things. And I think for me, it was just at a time where I was here now, it was easier to travel to places because it was easier to get visas. And so because I was traveling and like, I feel like that photo element is just something that just comes with traveling, right? And at some point, I think this was like um, 2015. I did a couple of trips 2016. I think it was 2016. And then I decided, let me just buy a camera so that I can take better pictures when I travel as opposed to the things I just do with my iPhone.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I started working on this project where we started working a bit late at work. So what I'll do is, and we were at the center of downtown. So what I'll do is at 5 o'clock, I'll take a break. I'll take my camera, just walk around, just take pictures of random things for like 20, 30 minutes. And then 5:30, I'll go back to work fresh and able to finish my work for the day.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I started doing that. And one time I was like, you know what, maybe I should just open an Instagram account for the photos I take and post them there anyways. And eventually over time, people started following and people at work were like, oh, you have a very good eye, and like I'll be hanging out with friends and they will be making reference to my photos to say those are really good. I'll be like, okay, I guess maybe I'm really good in this. And yeah, and that was how I started photography in like early 2017. I'll never forget the day one of my colleagues came to me at work and she was like, so I have these two friends, they just got engaged, they're visiting town, they want someone to take photos of them. How much do you charge? And I was like, I probably could do that for free. but, but but since you asked, okay. And I guess that was when the business side of but that was when I realized, okay, like maybe I'm this good at this and like people are actually willing to pay for this.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like how my foundation in photography started.
Okay. So, do you think it's been easy for you to balance, doing tech work and like taking photos and also traveling?
Yeah, it's been. I know on the surface it may sound like um, it's a lot, but for me, like it's been very easy.
Mhm.
And I guess that's the beauty of these things, right? Like over time, I've come to realize that it's something that has always been in there for me. So and because of that, like it's just I don't feel stressed, like obviously I plan my vacations, I plan my travels around my work vacations.
Mhm.
And when you now get into the business side of photography, obviously you realize that being owning a photography business is actually a lot of work because like there's all of the wheels that go around managing a business, right? Like you're doing your own PR, you're doing your own customer engagement, you're doing your own marketing, you're doing your own content creation,
Mhm.
content posting. It's all of that, but um, as far as the core photography side of things go, like the true photography, the art side of it, like blending it with my work, I think I've done well with managing both so far.
Okay, that's good. Usually people will talk about, well, it's not been that hard. Tolu is out here being like, well, it's been easy for me, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, like definitely, like I don't want to make it sound like it's been just like out of. I mean, not without its challenges,
Mhm.
but I think I've been able to manage it fairly well.
Yeah,
So
that's good. That's good. So, on top of all of these things, you are apparently also an author. So, let's talk about this your A to Z, I mean,
yeah.
Z life lessons. Let's talk about.
And I miss writing. You know, I feel like I'm losing the I'm losing the privilege or whatever it is you call it to be called an author. But
Mhm.
yeah, I did publish a book in 2010,
Mhm.
and I think the beauty of that book was I wrote it out of it was a product of Lagos hustle. And yeah, like so in 2009, I was in fourth year of school, and like engineering programs in Nigeria, in your fourth year, second semester,
Mhm.
you have to go work for 6 months. So you get some work experience, and then you come back for your fifth year to finish off your program. So um, I I was working for Motorola at that time. I wonder if Motorola is still around, anyways. But yeah, I was working for them in Nigeria, and I don't know how well you know Lagos, but I was living in Ipaja at that time, and work was in Victoria Island. And on a normal Sunday morning with no traffic, should be like maybe like a 45 minutes drive. But that's never the reality, right? So I would wake up to get ready for work by 5 o'clock. By 5:30, I'm out. I'm getting to work by like 7:45, 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
And then when I close is the tough one. So if I leave office at 5 o'clock, I'm getting home at like 8:39. If I'm lucky to sneak out at like 4:45, I might be able to get home by 8 o'clock.
It's okay.
So the summary of that was on the average day, I was spending like 6 to 7 hours of my life in traffic.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it was just what it is. So just because of that boredom, I just started. It happened that I just started writing, and Facebook was a cool thing then. I had the iPod Touch. I don't know if you know Apple iPod. Like that thing was it was such a cool thing in my circle to have then. So I had it. And like I used to use the Notes app a lot.
Mhm.
So that was how I got into writing. So I'll just be inside Danfo, Lagos traffic, just be typing and just writing random stuff.
Mhm.
And one of the very first pieces I wrote was, I think, A to Z of Lagos. And like, I did this whole analogy of like, A is for, I can't remember what A was for. Then B was for bus, C was for, then I'll talk about, okay, it was me describing my journey coming out of my house till I get back home from work. So B was like, okay, I get on the bus, and then the bus is saying this, and then the conductor is shouting, "Where's my change?" And then the driver is saying this. So I was just doing ABCD,
Uh-huh.
and so I did all of that A to Z. Posted it on Facebook, and it just went. I don't want to use the word viral, but I'll say like semi-viral in my circle at that time, and everybody was like, "Yo, people really like the humor, blah blah blah," and that kind of just encouraged me to get into writing, right? And I ended up doing a couple more of A to Z's, and um, by the time I was done my internship and I returned to school, I just had that idea. I'm like, you know what? Like, why not just put all of these short pieces together into a book and get a message out of it, right? And yeah, that was my second final year project.
Okay.
So, so I guess I've been juggling things alongside engineering for the longest while. And yeah, I launched it the day I graduated from university, and which was a perfect launch strategy because like parents were around. You know how convocation ceremonies go. Like all the copies we had that pretty much sold out that day, and it was yeah, and and that's how I started my journey into writing. And I had a couple of follow-up books that haven't made it to life yet, but short way
We're
of describing my
waiting.
writer's journey.
We're counting on you to release those books.
Amen. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It never dies, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like all these things are just like life phases and all of that, right? But I feel once you're a writer, you're always a writer, right? So it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
We're waiting. We're waiting. So, art, jollof, and champagne. I think that was that event. I thought
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
perfectly put together. So, what was the inspiration? Why did you think about using these three words to, call your event that?
Yeah. So I guess there's a little bit of common pattern here with everything I do is always tied to what's happening in my life at that point in time. At Jollof and Champagne, that idea came, if I think shortly after my trip from Tokyo. So it was 2017. I went to Tokyo for the first time. Fantastic experience, and like going to a place like Tokyo by myself, like that was fun. So, anyways, woke up one random morning, took a shower, as the best ideas always come in the shower, and I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know where it came from, but three words came to my mind. It was art, jollof, and champagne. And I came out of the shower, and because I like to share ideas when they jump on me with my friends. Otherwise, I never work on it. So I texted two of my friends. The first person I texted was one of my friends, she's South Korean, and I'm like, art, jollof, and champagne. And I texted one of my other Nigerian friends too in Lagos. And the first friend I texted was like, "Oh, this sounds dope. We should go for it. Where is it?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then my second friend was like, "Oh, I love the sound of this. Like, go for it." And that was how the idea started baking. And then 3 weeks after that, I met up with an old friend. We were at Kensington, and she was like, "Oh, your pictures from Tokyo," and she was describing one particular photo, and she was telling me more to my photo. I'm like, "Oh, really? People see a technical angle to this?" I'm like, "Oh, by the way, I'm actually thinking of showcasing all of this at a gallery someday." And I had one random idea for like I jollof, and she was like, "Tolu, I'm a planner, right? I'm planning this event for you for free." And I'm like, okay, let's try it. And that was how it started. And I mean, like the whole concept for me was having been in Toronto for a couple of years then, I was like, I mean, we go for all of these events. It's either like super turn up or like it's super chill that it's almost too boring. There's never anything so in between, right? And I just felt like there was that gap in the Toronto event space where you could have an evening where you're truly just enjoying a gallery space for the artwork, but it's also not so boring that it's just a visit to AGO or one of the other museums, right? But at the same time, you could bring in some cultural elements with it and hopefully end the night with a little bit of after party, So I was just like, because I like all these fusion things, So I'm like, okay. And yeah, that was what we reached out to do with the first edition, right? And it was art based on my travels, and then it was Jollof, me collaborating with a chef to also showcase food that is a bit tied to the places I've visited, right? So I remember the very first one because I did Jollof. Like David was the chef then. He did like some Jollof sushi. He did like sushi rolls, but with Jollof rice. And like so but yeah, like we did the first edition, people loved it, and thankfully we were able to do two other editions after that, and we'll be back for more. I mean, once
We
COVID.
can't wait. We can't wait. My favorite part of that event was when people write their interpretation of a photo. I thought
Yeah,
that was super genius.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you go around and you just see all the things people are writing, and you're just like, "What? I didn't even see that."
yeah,
So that's really nice.
yeah, yeah. No, that for me too. That's one of the because it's like I have all those things in my collection, right? And like I have pictures of them, but I like when like I feel like when I really want to just enjoy myself, I just go back to my book, just get the folder where I have everything, and then
Yeah.
just read it in different handwriting. And yeah, it's fun for me. It's my takeaway from the event.
Good. That's good. So, what are some things that you've learned about yourself in your professional journey in Canada?
So I mean, like the professional space in Canada is a very tough one. I tell people, especially those of us that are immigrants, that I think I've benefited the most from it because um, I was first very soaked up in it, and then I chose to distract myself with my artwork, and I only seek validation with my art. I try not to seek validation with my professional career because there's just a lot of variables, right? And like, you know, we we say there's not a lot of we try to say, oh, Canada is an equal playing ground, blah blah blah, but it's never the case, right? Like some people don't just understand you. Some people, we try to be diverse, but the level ground is the playing ground is not level, right? So one thing I've learned for sure is to first acknowledge that fact that, I mean, as an immigrant, there will always be all those factors playing against you. And I've also learned that it's not a society or it's not an environment that necessarily rewards hard work. It's only an environment that gives you what you ask for. So starting off my professional career in Nigeria, where you just put in the work, trust me, people are noticing you. Like, but you come here, you put in the work, and they're like, "Oh, really? You did the work? Oh, interesting. You never told us you did the work." So it's stressful. It's stressful to always have to self-advocate, but it's just how the system works, right? Yeah. So I've realized that getting comfortable or being able to self-advocate in this kind of environment goes a long way more than the work that you do. The work that you do will be appreciated, but when you want to grow and rise above the ranks, then it's a culture that is driven by self-advocation. So
okay. So besides traveling, what else do you do for self-care?
Is travel part of my self-care routine anymore? I think for me, like I like to spend a lot of time with myself because like I'm very, very big on meditation. I probably don't meditate in the traditional sense of, or like the stereotypical sense of meditation there, and that's because there's just so many ways one can meditate, right? But in summary, I'll just say meditation for me is like my number one go-to self-care routine.
Okay. And where can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, I'm everywhere. You know, if you call just introduce, say, do you know that Tolu guy? Well, that's not true, guys. Well, yeah, like I'm pretty much on every social media platform. I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. I have my website that has the links to everything. So if you ever want to check out what my work is about, check out www.fizco.ca. Yeah, I'm everywhere on the internet in that sense. So if you Google my photography brand Fisco, you'll find me and find out the other places where I share my work.
This man's like, my SEO is up. You just need to Google me and you'll find me. Go for it. I'm for it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Diasporic Nigerian today. We definitely enjoyed chatting with you. Take care and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.